New Mexico, 1883. The desert stretched endlessly under a pale dawn sky, its red rocks glowing faintly as the first sunlight touched their jagged edges. Winds whispered through the sagebrush, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant mountains, a subtle reminder of the land's harsh beauty. In a small wooden house perched on the edge of a winding trail, Evelyn Harper stood by the window, her eyes tracing the slow movement of a trading caravan. The world outside promised both freedom and uncertainty, a place where courage and honesty could either be tested or finally rewarded. This was a land of opportunity, but also of trials, where choices mattered and destinies shifted with each passing day. Evelyn's life was about to take a turn she had never imagined, propelled by a letter sealed with a family crest and weighted with the promise of a future she had longed for but never dared to claim. The envelope was thick and heavy, the wax seal embossed with the Colton family crest catching the sunlight that filtered through the dusty window. Evelyn traced the contours of the emblem with a trembling fingertip, feeling a mixture of anticipation and dread coil in her stomach. She had spent years navigating the narrow expectations of her family, where any deviation from decorum was punished with disapproval, and yet now the paper in her hands held the possibility of freedom. She turned it over, noting the careful script of the sender, the precise loops of ink that suggested both formality and urgency. Every letter of her name seemed to vibrate with promise and uncertainty. Evelyn carefully broke the seal, the snap of wax under her fingers echoing in the quiet room. She unfolded the parchment and felt the weight of the words settle over her like a thin, shifting veil. The sentences outlined arrangements, obligations, and opportunities, but beneath the practicality, she sensed the invisible threads of expectation and scrutiny. Her eyes lingered on each line, absorbing the meaning while also imagining the landscapes that lay ahead, the roads she would travel, and the unfamiliar home she was about to enter. A faint breeze stirred the curtains, carrying the scent of sage and sun-baked soil into the room, and Evelyn breathed it in, letting it fill her with a sense of both trepidation and determination. The small trunk by the door seemed suddenly smaller, not only sufficient to contain her belongings, but the life she had carried within her until now. Her fingers brushed against the worn leather, feeling the familiar contours of the handle, and she understood that leaving would not just be a journey of miles, but a crossing into an unknown world where her choices might finally hold power. She imagined the dusty paths winding through the desert, the jagged silhouettes of distant cliffs, and the endless sky stretching above them, and for the first time in years she felt the pulse of possibility, the quiet insistence that her life could be hers to shape. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, and Evelyn read it twice, then set it down carefully on her oak desk. It promised a new beginning. She had requested a life beyond the rigid expectations of her family, and the Coltons were sending her a place in their household. But something about the formal, measured tone of the letter set her nerves on edge, a subtle warning that the path ahead would not be simple. She walked to the window and stared at the dusty road that led through the desert and mountains, imagining the wagon that would carry her toward a life unknown. She did not yet know the intricacies of the Colton family, the dynamics that had dictated which daughter would be sent away, or the unspoken motives that made her arrival both a relief and a necessity for them. Behind closed doors, her family was already preparing for her departure, their gestures mingling with relief and calculation. Evelyn only felt the weight of the choice before her: to step beyond the door of her childhood and embrace the uncertainty of independence, where her honesty and courage might finally find value. Her small wooden house, the familiar dust on the floor, the scent of sage and sun-baked soil, all seemed to pause in anticipation of her leaving. She placed the letter gently back on the desk, her fingers lingering over the embossed seal. Then she moved to the trunk by the door, touched its worn leather once more, and understood with a clarity that brought both fear and exhilaration that this step was not merely a change of place, it was a transformation of her life, a crossing into a world where she could finally define herself on her own terms. With the sun climbing higher, casting warm light across the floorboards, Evelyn breathed deeply, feeling the mingling of apprehension and resolve. She took her first deliberate steps toward the trunk, lifted its lid, and prepared to carry her belongings and her life into the unknown. The desert outside promised trials and freedom in equal measure, but she felt ready. Every movement, every breath, and every heartbeat echoed the quiet determination that she would meet whatever awaited with honesty, courage, and a steadfast sense of who she was meant to be.
The morning air was sharp and dry as Evelyn lifted the last of her belongings into the wagon, each movement deliberate, heavy with the weight of years lived under careful scrutiny. The house behind her seemed smaller than it had felt, the walls and beams absorbing the silence of unspoken frustrations, the sighs of patience worn thin. She paused on the porch, eyes tracing the familiar contours of the garden, the cracked boards of the steps, the sun-bleached fence marking the edge of the property. Every detail carried memory. The long hours of chores performed under watchful eyes, the reprimands for speaking truth when silence was demanded, the small kindnesses she had extended that had been met with annoyance rather than gratitude. As the wagon rolled away, the dust rising behind the wheels seemed to pull fragments of her past into the open air, lifting them just enough to acknowledge without holding. The desert stretched before her, wide and unbroken, the red cliffs and jagged mesas standing like silent witnesses to her departure. Each bend in the winding road offered a new view, a glimpse of isolation and possibility intertwined, the sparse vegetation and scattered boulders shaping shadows that shifted with the sun. Evelyn felt the rhythm of the journey, the sway of the wagon, and the subtle jolt of each uneven patch, as if the motion itself was shaking loose the remnants of constraint that had clung to her for so long. Thoughts of her family lingered, mingled with relief, resentment, and an unexpected sense of release. She remembered the way her honesty had been seen as defiance, her insistence on fairness as irritation, and how often she had been silenced for the sake of propriety. Those recollections were heavy in the chest, yet they fueled a quiet determination, a recognition that the future belonged to her alone, not to the expectations of others. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the desert floor, illuminating the pale streaks of the distant mountains and the occasional scrubby tree clinging to life in the arid soil. Evelyn let her gaze wander, taking in the vast expanse, the curves of the canyon walls, the patterns of light and shadow that marked time and distance. Every inhale carried the scent of sage and sun-baked earth, a reminder of both danger and beauty, of endurance and the unexpected freedom found in empty spaces. She thought of the new home awaiting her, the unfamiliar land she would walk, the person who would share it with her, and the unspoken rules she would need to learn. Fear coiled at the edges of her mind, a shadow that whispered caution. But beneath it, a steady current of excitement surged, a recognition that the journey itself was as significant as the destination. The wagon rattled along the dry path, and Evelyn allowed herself to lean back, closing her eyes for a brief moment, imagining the life she might build, the choices she could make unobserved, the small victories and quiet rebellions that would define her days. Every mile carried her farther from the weight of suppression and closer to the uncertain promise of autonomy. She felt the rhythm of the horses beneath her, their hooves striking the hard earth in steady cadence, and with each beat, the past seemed to loosen its grip, drifting behind her like the dust cloud trailing the wagon. The wind teased strands of hair across her face, carrying the faint taste of distant canyons, the dryness of the desert, the hint of rain in some unseen hollow. Her heart responded to the open sky and empty horizon, the realization settling that her decisions, her courage, her honesty were finally hers to wield. Evelyn's eyes opened wide as the landscape stretched endlessly ahead, unbroken and immense, a canvas awaiting her steps. Memories of reprimands, of silenced truths, of frustrated efforts to do right without permission or reward rose briefly and faded into the heat of the morning. She straightened in the seat, the sun warming her back, feeling a tremor of strength she had long denied herself. The road continued to wind, presenting cliffs that glowed gold in the morning light, washes of sage and low scrub painted across the earth, the occasional hawk circling above. The horizon held both fear and hope, a duality that mirrored the weight of the trunk beside her, containing her past, yet powerless to contain the resolve that filled her. As the wagon approached a rise, Evelyn lifted her gaze and allowed herself to see the promise in the distance, a house she had never entered, land she had never walked, and a life that awaited her decisions alone. The swaying of the wagon, the sunburned earth, the quiet rhythm of the horses, all became a meditation, each mile a measured release from the burdens she had carried. The memories were present, but diminished, acknowledged without granting them authority, like shadows retreating before the rising sun. Evelyn's hands rested on the worn wood of the wagon, steady and resolute as she embraced the realization that the journey was hers, the choices hers, and the freedom she had sought so long was finally at reach. The vastness of the New Mexico desert in 1883, with its harsh light and stark beauty, became a partner in her passage, marking each mile with a sense of scale and possibility, every bend a chance to step further from the past. The wagon rolled on, the landscape unchanging yet transforming in perception, the road ahead full of promise, challenge, and the quiet anticipation of what would come next.
The Colton Ranch rose on the horizon like a promise etched in stone and timber, a solid testament to decades of work and care. The main house stood with walls of pale sandstone, its corners sharp and precise, yet softened by the warm tones of the setting sun. Wide wooden beams supported the roof, their surfaces polished and oiled to a gentle sheen, reflecting the light in subtle patterns. Courtyards stretched around the house, lined with flowering shrubs and herbs that swayed gently in the dry breeze, the air carrying the mingling scents of sage, earth, and the faint sweetness of ripening fruits. The gardens were neat but alive, a balance of order and vitality that spoke of both discipline and patience. Horses grazed quietly in the distant pastures, their tails flicking at the occasional fly, their presence calm and measured, adding rhythm to the landscape. The dust of the road had settled into a soft haze around the ranch, and the sound of the wagon wheels grinding over stone and dirt gave way to the quiet chorus of life on the homestead. James Colton emerged from the doorway, tall and broad-shouldered, moving with the precision of someone accustomed to hard work, yet tempered by awareness and thoughtfulness. His gaze did not linger on appearances, nor did it measure social expectation. It sought the essence of character, the truth behind the posture and mannerisms. As Evelyn stepped down from the wagon, she noticed the careful arrangement of the entrance hall. A broom resting neatly in the corner, a bench polished smooth from years of use, a collection of boots lined evenly along the wall. The scent of fresh bread mingled with the lingering aroma of roasting meat, mingling with the woody sharpness of beams and floorboards. Each element spoke quietly of a household where functionality and care existed together, where the act of living did not demand pretense. Evelyn's eyes traveled over the shelves filled with books whose spines bore the marks of repeated readings, stories treasured and returned to, a signal of a mind engaged and nurtured. Tools hung on hooks or rested on tables, arranged for immediate use, yet meticulously maintained, as though the act of tending the land and building the home carried with it a respect that extended to every object and every motion. In this place, she realized, honesty was not a burden, but a principle, a quiet current that ran through the rooms, through the way the light fell on polished floors and through the measured steps of James Colton. The rooms were spacious, their proportions generous yet intimate, creating a sense of openness that allowed for both work and reflection. Light streamed through wide windows, illuminating the warmth of wood and stone, revealing subtle imperfections that only enhanced their authenticity. Evelyn felt the air differently here, less constrained, freer than any she had known, filled with a patience and steadiness she had long sought. She noticed the subtle details that spoke volumes: a chair angled just so for comfort, a table cleared of unnecessary clutter, a fireplace that glowed gently even before a fire had been started. The atmosphere was alive with quiet order, a rhythm of existence that required neither deception nor posturing, where actions were measured by purpose rather than by perception. As she moved through the house, the sound of her footsteps on the smooth wooden floors seemed to merge with the ambient chorus of distant animals, the wind rustling through the nearby orchards, the faint echo of water from a stone trough. Every sensory detail reinforced a sense of place, a groundedness that contrasted sharply with the tension and constraint of her past. James observed her from a careful distance, noting her movements, the way she held herself, the subtle reactions to her surroundings. His attention was deliberate but not intrusive, an acknowledgement of presence without judgment, a silent assessment that allowed her to reveal herself naturally. Evelyn's chest lifted with a sensation she had rarely experienced, the feeling of being genuinely seen, recognized for the integrity and quiet strength that too often had been suppressed. The scent of sun-warmed wood, the tactile reality of polished handles and sturdy floors, the faint aroma of baked bread mingled with roasted meat, all contributed to a sense of grounding, a reassurance that she was entering a space where authenticity was not only accepted, but valued. As she moved from the entry hall to the central living area, her eyes caught the organized chaos of daily life made orderly. A basket of freshly picked herbs, a stack of papers tied neatly with string, a worn but comfortable chair by the window. The details spoke silently of a household that thrived on attention to both work and the people who performed it. The hearth glowed faintly. Its warmth hinted at evening tasks and quiet moments yet to come. The wooden floorboards bore the marks of countless footsteps, each groove and nick a testament to lived experience and practical care. Evelyn felt the weight of her past begin to lift, replaced by a mixture of awe, relief, and cautious optimism. This was a place built for living, not for appearances. A home that demanded presence, diligence, and honesty rather than conformity or deceit. As she allowed herself to breathe in the scent of wood, earth, and baking bread, the steady rhythm of the ranch became a pulse that seemed to match her own heartbeat. Each glance around the room reinforced a singular truth. Here, in this expansive yet intimate home, she could belong without compromise. She could act without fear, and she could discover her own measure in the quiet, deliberate rhythms of daily life. The ranch, with its broad stone walls, polished beams, and sunlit courtyards, welcomed her not as a visitor or a guest, but as someone whose presence would be acknowledged, whose efforts would matter, whose honesty could flourish unimpeded. Evelyn stepped fully into the house, her senses alive to every texture, sound, and scent, absorbing the reassurance that came from clarity and purpose. For the first time in years, she felt both grounded and free. The uncertain road behind her now a bridge to a future that promised authenticity, connection, and the slow unfolding of trust and understanding in a place where she could finally be seen.
Each morning unfolded with quiet revelation. Evelyn rose with the first hints of sunlight spilling over the sandstone cliffs, the air crisp and dry, carrying the scent of sage and fertile soil from the ranch. She watched the horses as they moved through the pastures, their rhythm steady, their presence a calm constant that mirrored the sense of order and purpose in the house. James moved through the ranch with a careful attentiveness, observing every detail, not in judgment, but with the precision of someone who understood that the smallest actions revealed the deepest truths. He noted how Evelyn approached each task, her hands gentle yet deliberate, the way her eyes lingered on the curve of a tool, the alignment of a fence post, the condition of the soil beneath her feet. She realized gradually that his interest in her had never been about obedience or social expectation. He valued the way she saw the world, the attention she paid to details others overlooked, her instinct to question, to notice inconsistencies, and to seek the truth in what was often concealed. Memories surfaced from her past, moments when her honesty had been met with disapproval, when her desire to intervene in injustice had marked her as troublesome. Those same qualities, once regarded as flaws, now defined her worth in this new context. Every careful movement of hers, every decision made with thought and integrity, resonated with the rhythm of the ranch, creating a sense of belonging she had never known. The mornings were quiet, but alive, filled with the subtle hum of activity, the lowing of cattle, the creak of wooden gates, the whisper of wind through the distant mesquite. Evelyn walked through the orchards, her fingers brushing against ripening fruit, noting the texture of leaves and the sturdiness of branches. Each observation seemed to deepen her understanding not only of the land, but of her own instincts, of the skills and attentiveness that had been dismissed by those who failed to see her potential. She began to see the ranch as a living puzzle, its operations interconnected, each task dependent on insight, patience, and care. James's presence was a quiet constant in her days, never intrusive, always observant. He moved alongside her at times, a shadow that measured and recorded, his eyes tracing patterns in the way she handled equipment, inspected the animals, or organized the stores of food and tools. Evelyn noticed the subtle signals of approval, a slight nod, a raised eyebrow, the careful measurement of attention that indicated he had seen something of value. This recognition, though unspoken, sparked a growing confidence within her, a sense that her perspective mattered, that her intelligence and courage were no longer liabilities, but essential contributions to the daily work. As the sun climbed higher, Evelyn began to connect details she had once ignored, the layout of the land, the rotation of crops, the feeding patterns of the livestock, the way water flowed from one pasture to the next. Each observation became a thread in a broader understanding, a tapestry revealing both the mechanics of the ranch and the character of the man who maintained it. She realized that James had chosen her not for her compliance, but for her ability to perceive what was hidden, to unravel complexity, and to respond with insight rather than fear. The transformation within her was subtle at first, a quiet shift in posture, a steadiness in thought and movement. She felt her instincts sharpen, her attention focus, and a sense of inner freedom grow with each passing day. No longer constrained by the fear of disapproval, she moved with deliberation and clarity, her choices reflecting not the expectations of others, but her own judgment. The past, with its weight of judgment and limitation, seemed to fall away with each step across the wide fields and fertile orchards, leaving space for the emergence of self-trust and purpose. By mid-morning, the rhythm of the ranch had become a meditation.
Evelyn found herself anticipating needs before they were spoken, adjusting her work to the natural flow of the day, discovering patterns and connections that enhanced both productivity and understanding. The ranch itself seemed to respond to her attention, every plant, animal, and structure reflecting her care and insight. She recognized that the skills and sensibilities that had been treated as rebellious in her family were in fact gifts, capable of shaping the world around her with precision, compassion, and intelligence. Her confidence blossomed alongside an awareness of the subtle interplay between observation and action. She no longer acted solely on instinct or reaction. Each movement, each decision carried intention, a careful consideration of consequences and benefit. James continued to observe silently, his presence affirming, never demanding, allowing her to grow into her own power, her own understanding. Each day on the ranch was a lesson in perception, patience, and trust, and Evelyn absorbed it with a hunger she had never before been permitted to feel. By afternoon, she moved through the central fields, checking irrigation channels, examining the health of livestock, and noting the progress of crops. She felt a connection not only to the land, but to the system of work and life that James had cultivated. Her sense of agency expanded as she recognized the impact of her insights, the importance of her attentiveness, and the satisfaction of contributing meaningfully to a shared endeavor. She was no longer simply following instructions. She was a participant in the creation and maintenance of order, a partner in the quiet rhythm of ranch life. Evening brought a calm reflection. Evelyn watched the sun dip behind distant ridges, the sky igniting with shades of amber and violet. She considered the day, the discoveries, and the subtle lessons imparted through observation and quiet guidance. The transformation within her was unmistakable, a growing confidence in her judgment, a sense of self-worth rooted in skill and perception, and the realization that she had finally entered a place where her presence was valued, her abilities recognized, and her truth honored. Each morning and each task continued to build upon the last, layering insight, trust, and understanding, guiding her towards a fuller comprehension of both the land she had entered and the person she was becoming.
The days on the ranch settled into a steady rhythm, each sunrise marking the start of shared labor and quiet companionship. Evelyn moved through the fields with a growing sense of purpose, her hands learning the subtle techniques required to care for animals, tend crops, and maintain fences. Every task was a test of patience, skill, and observation, and with each challenge, she discovered new depths to her own capabilities. She learned to anticipate the needs of the horses, to read the health of cattle from subtle shifts in posture and appetite, to judge the soil's readiness for planting by touch and sight alone. The land, once foreign and intimidating, became familiar under her careful attention. James worked alongside her, his presence steady and unobtrusive. He shared the wisdom he had accumulated through years of labor, not as instruction but as guidance, allowing her to interpret and adapt. In return, Evelyn's perspective illuminated details he had once overlooked, her sharp eye catching small inconsistencies in water flow, soil condition, and animal behavior. Together, they created a balance, a partnership that respected individual skill while harmonizing their efforts toward common goals. Obstacles arose frequently, storms that damaged fences, sudden illness among livestock, equipment that failed at crucial moments. Each difficulty demanded cooperation, clear assessment, and immediate action, forcing them to rely on one another in ways neither had anticipated. As the weeks passed, Evelyn's confidence deepened. Tasks that had seemed overwhelming at first now felt natural, and she approached them with an ease that surprised even herself. The lessons of her past, hesitation, fear of judgment, and the need to conform faded under the weight of accomplishment and the tangible results of her labor. She realized that mistakes were no longer disasters, but opportunities for learning and refinement. James observed this transformation quietly, acknowledging it with subtle gestures. A satisfied nod when a fence was repaired efficiently, a brief smile when a task she executed exceeded his expectations, a glance of recognition when she discovered a solution before he could suggest one. Their work created moments of unspoken understanding. They walked side by side along the irrigation channels, hands busy yet coordinated, moving in sync with the natural rhythm of the ranch. The sun rose and set over the red mesas, painting the land in warm tones, and each day closed with a sense of completion, of progress made together. Evelyn noticed the trust forming in their shared labor, the confidence that allowed them to speak without words, to anticipate each other's needs, and to respect each other's judgments without question. Evenings brought quiet reflection. She would watch James move through the barn, adjusting the lighting, checking the water troughs, his movements deliberate and precise, and she felt a profound sense of belonging. She no longer carried the weight of her family's scrutiny, the shadow of disapproval that had shaped her adolescence. Here, her decisions mattered, her insight was valued, and her work was recognized. Each dawn renewed her sense of agency, and each dusk reinforced the satisfaction of shared achievement. The partnership extended beyond labor. They walked the pastures together at sunset, observing the cattle, noting the changes in the soil and vegetation, the subtle shifts in weather, and the life cycles unfolding before them. Evelyn learned to see the land as a living entity, to respect its rhythms, and to act in harmony with its needs. Her relationship with James mirrored this understanding, built on mutual observation, careful consideration, and the recognition that trust and respect were earned through consistent, honest effort. Over time, their connection deepened into something more than shared work. The quiet admiration between them became a foundation for emotional intimacy, a bond rooted in the appreciation of character and integrity. Evelyn felt a warmth in her chest that was not merely physical comfort, but the affirmation of being seen and valued for her authentic self. She no longer feared judgment or disapproval. Instead, she embraced her own abilities, her insights, and her courage, knowing they were recognized and cherished. The land and its challenges shaped their days, but it was the trust and understanding between Evelyn and James that defined their nights. Each obstacle overcome, each fence repaired, each crop tended and animal cared for became evidence of their growing interdependence. The ranch was more than a home. It was a crucible in which fear and doubt were replaced by confidence and purpose. Evelyn's transformation was mirrored in the way James responded to her, with steady reassurance, encouragement, and acknowledgement, fostering a sense of equality and partnership that neither had fully experienced before. Through these long days of shared effort, Evelyn and James discovered not only the practical rhythms of ranch life, but also the deeper truths of connection, respect, and perseverance. The barriers imposed by past experiences, family expectations, and self-doubt began to dissolve, leaving space for trust, collaboration, and a sense of mutual reliance. Each task completed together was a testament to their growing harmony, a foundation for the unspoken promise that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as partners, equal in skill, judgment, and heart. By the end of each day, as the sky deepened into twilight and the land cooled beneath the evening air, Evelyn felt a steady pulse of accomplishment and belonging. She had learned to trust not only the land and its rhythms, but also the man who guided her through it with patience and respect. She recognized her past fears and insecurities, once burdens, had become the soil from which resilience and insight could grow. In this shared life of labor and observation, they had built more than a ranch. They had created a space where honesty, competence, and courage were not only accepted, but celebrated, and where the barriers of doubt and hesitation were replaced by the freedom to act, to grow, and to connect.
The wedding took place quietly, beneath the wide open skies of New Mexico, with fields stretching endlessly in every direction. The ceremony was simple, intimate, and unadorned, marked by sincerity rather than extravagance. Evelyn wore a modest, well-mended dress that reflected the practicality and resilience she had carried all her life. And James, in clean, polished attire, exuded the steady confidence of a man shaped by years of honest labor. The gentle wind carried the scent of sagebrush and sun-baked earth across the fields, mingling with the faint aroma of freshly baked bread and simmering stew from the ranch kitchen, creating an atmosphere that was both grounding and celebratory. Life on the ranch had settled into a rhythm that felt natural and fulfilling. Each morning began with the quiet promise of labor, the rising sun illuminating the red rocks and casting long shadows over the pastures. Evelyn moved with purpose, tending to the animals with care and precision, planting and harvesting with hands that had grown skilled and confident. Each action was imbued with meaning, her labor no longer a requirement imposed by others, but a reflection of her own agency and dedication. James worked alongside her, their movements synchronized yet unspoken, a silent testament to trust and mutual respect. They maintained the fields, repaired fences, and ensured that the livestock thrived. But it was the small daily rituals that cemented their bond. They walked the long stretches of pasture together, observing the subtle changes in the land, the growth of plants, the behaviors of animals, and the shifting colors of the sky. Evelyn found herself noticing details she had once overlooked, the way the wind shifted across the mesa, the way light played across the rugged terrain, the faint traces of wildlife along the edges of the pastures. Each observation brought a sense of wonder and belonging, a connection to the land and to the life they were building together. Evenings were reserved for reflection and shared quiet. They would sit on the veranda, watching the sky deepen from warm amber to the indigo of night, the first stars flickering like distant lanterns over the vast expanse of desert. The air cooled, carrying the scent of sagebrush and sun-baked earth, and the soft sounds of nocturnal wildlife created a gentle soundtrack to their shared peace. In those moments, Evelyn felt the weight of her past lifting entirely, replaced by the grounding presence of trust and love. She was seen and valued for her authentic self, not measured against expectations or hidden judgments. The ranch itself became more than a home. It was a sanctuary, a place where integrity, honesty, and dedication were both necessary and celebrated. Evelyn marveled at how the land had transformed under their combined care, how fences once broken now stood solid, how fields once barren yielded crops, and how the animals thrived under their watchful attention. These tangible results of shared effort mirrored the growth within herself, her confidence reinforced by each small success, each challenge met and overcome. As their days unfolded, the bond between Evelyn and James deepened beyond companionship. Shared labor became shared understanding. Mutual respect blossomed into quiet affection, and the mutual reliance they had built grew into the foundation of a life filled with purpose and love. Every dawn brought renewed energy and promise. Every dusk reinforced a sense of accomplishment and belonging. In each other's presence, they discovered a home not defined solely by walls and land, but by the trust and honesty that shaped their lives. Evelyn realized that she had never truly been free until this moment, that acceptance and appreciation could be found not in the approval of others, but in the acknowledgement of her own worth and the recognition of her contributions.
The past, with its pressures, misunderstandings, and judgments, had receded into memory, leaving space for a future defined by choice, partnership, and authenticity. She felt a profound serenity, the quiet satisfaction of knowing she belonged, not because she conformed, but because she was herself. As the stars multiplied above the mesa, each one a tiny, unwavering point of light, Evelyn and James shared the simple joy of being together, of creating a life that was fully their own. They had built a home grounded in honesty, respect, and shared effort, a place where each could thrive and grow. Every breeze across the fields, every sound of animals moving quietly at dusk, every subtle shift in the sky served as a reminder of the life they had forged together, a life rooted in integrity and mutual understanding. For those who have followed their journey, the story of Evelyn and James is a testament to the power of trust, perseverance, and the courage to embrace authenticity. Their journey from uncertainty and restraint to confidence and shared purpose exemplifies the rewards of honesty, hard work, and openness to new beginnings. Their story is a reminder that even in vast, challenging landscapes, connection and understanding can transform a house into a home, and a life of labor into a life of meaning and fulfillment. If this story inspired you, subscribe to the channel to discover more tales of courage, fate, and unexpected encounters. Each new story brings the chance to witness lives transformed, to feel the strength of human spirit, and to experience journeys that leave a lasting impression on the heart. Your support helps share these stories with others, allowing us to continue exploring the richness of character, the depth of human emotion, and the beauty of life lived authentically.